So what we're going to do actually is just introduce yourselves and introduce your company and tell us a little bit about your company and tell us how Python fits into that. So that's addressed to everybody. Now you can go bring the answer in your own little direction. Don't have to follow a very prescribed lines, but there you go. So who you are and tell us about Python, how that fits in.
Hello everybody, my name's Sean O'Donnell. I'm the head technical architect at Rapid Ratings. Rapid Ratings is a financial rating service. It's a US company, but all development is done in Ireland. We're not the sideshow, we're the whole show in technology terms. We're a deeply dedicated Python company. Everything we build is based on Python from the ground up. And we have some of the most experienced Python developers in the country. So if you came and worked for us, you'd have a lot of great people to learn from.
Hi there, my name is Charlie. I'm one of the founders of Hosted Graphite, which is a tiny Irish company. We've been here for about 6 years. There's about 20 of us. From day one, everything's been in Python. There's dozens of backend services that are all in Python, and then there's all the front-end stuff, of course. For the first thing, I'm going to leave it there.
My name is XD. I'm a senior engineer and product manager at Telnex. We're a startup based in Chicago and Dublin. Telnex is a real-time communication provider and a next-generation carrier looking to democratize the public switch telephone network. We grew from 5 people to 100 in a little over 3 years. And in 2019, we're looking to duplicate that growth here in Dublin with the opening of a brand new office at Grand Canal Quay. So we're looking to hire several senior Python engineers to head up that function to architect, build, scale, and maintain a host of services to maintain our product lines. We offer voice, messaging, automated networking, and embedded services, embedded communications such as WebRTC. So if you're interested in joining us, come talk to us and or check out our career page at telnex.com/career.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I work for Bank of America. We use Python predominantly in the bank. A lot of the other applications are written in Java, but Python is kind of the more main language that's used across our different regions. We are kind of globally distributed. So if you join the bank, you can either work in Dublin, you can work in London, New York, Charlotte, Singapore. There's loads of different options. Just go on to campus@bankofamerica.com and figure out where you want to go. We use Python to create internal dashboards. We use it to help our traders with some of their algorithmic trading. We use Python for a lot of our model risk analysis. So I work on the global risk analytics team as a Python developer there. So really, like, you think of a topic that you want to use Python for, and we've pretty much got it covered in the bank. So whatever you want to do, come join us.
Hello, I'm Junior. I work for Scurry. So Scurry is a company based on Wexford. What we do, actually, we connect companies, shops, with the carriers that's going to deliver your products to the customer. So instead, if you have a shop and you need to connect to this UPS or FedEx or any carrier to deliver this product to your customers, you can connect to Scurry, and then we abstract all of this integration that you would have to each carrier. We also work with the tracking part of that. So after you ship your product to your customer, instead of go to each different carrier website to reply that where is my order, you can use Scurry and you can have a timeline of events for the tracking, so you can identify where is the product, if it has any exception during the delivery, and have more like a proactive customer service based on that. So we are all based on Python. We have an API and an app. So the API is Python-based, the app is also Python-based, and the front end is Django. We are in Wexford, so we actually are an option for anyone who wants to work in a technology company but don't want to live in a big city like Dublin. So that's it, scurry.com, and we're always looking for Python developers.
Thank you. Derek Smith is my name. I work for Brightwater Recruitment, so we're a recruitment agency, a little bit different from the guys here. What we do is obviously place Python developers in a variety of companies around Dublin. Brightwater is a company 20 years in existence this year. We were set up in 1998. The IT division in Brightwater was set up in 2003. So we have long experience in the Dublin market particularly, but we also exist in Cork and also in Belfast. Our client base is diverse. We deal with small startups, SMEs, small to medium-sized software product companies up to your global tech firms and financial services firms. We cover all IT disciplines, so all verticals. Relevant to today, software developers, DevOps, data science, and kind of everything in between. Where we really fit in today, I think, is around advice. So if you come to Brightwater, what you can expect is to be helped all the way through the process, from your application, your CV preparation, your interview preparation, the negotiation around salary and benefits and things like that, and at all steps through the process, through the recruitment process. Also, we deal with a variety of companies. So why you might come to Brightwater is if you want a good view of the market across all of those company types. What we really do is match make, so we try and find the right company to suit you and your requirements. That's it.
Great stuff. Thanks very much. I'm going to follow up there, start with Derek again, actually, for the next question. Now, essentially, because the Brightwater Recruitment Company, this question is going to work slightly differently from them, but it's essentially what this is the ulterior motive of this next question is recruitment. So essentially, this is like, where is your company going and what people you need to get there? And how do you what's your company looking for, basically, is in the short term. Now that you might have a slightly different direction with that, Derek, so I'll let you improvise. Who would you like to see come through your door in the next few weeks?
Anybody. So we operate multiple divisions in Brightwater. IT is one of many verticals that we recruit for. Within IT, our challenge is probably the same as all of the companies represented here today. We recruit across all verticals. Some really tricky, like everybody knows, software developers are in short supply in Dublin and the rest of the country. New emerging areas, cybersecurity is a big area for at the moment, data science. It's really replicated, and the challenge, I suppose, is different across. I mean, there are role types where, if we take, on the support side, systems analysis, help desk, all the way up to, system engineer types, where there may be more of them in the marketplace. Our challenge is the same. It's finding quality people, motivated people, people who are good at what they do and know what they want and can deliver. That's what we really need coming through our doors. Events like this are very important. We've sponsored PyCon since its inception 9 years ago, and we'll continue to sponsor it. So being visible in the market is very important to us. We want to meet good, motivated people and match them up correctly to the right client. That's the challenge that we have. But we will talk to anybody from, we met some really interesting people here today who are much earlier in their careers, about to graduate, just graduated, looking for advice. Those people are great for us. All the way up to the more senior types who are much further down their, in their career, but maybe confused and looking for direction. Whoever you are, whatever the stage you're at, we're happy to talk to you.
So just to refresh the question there, just because it works slightly differently now, it's just like for everyone else. So it's about recruitment. So this works slightly differently for the rest. Tell us about who you want to meet, where your company is going in the next 2 or 3 years, and the people you want to meet to get you there. Who do you want to hire?
Yeah. So actually, what we look at Scurry are not specifically Python developers, but problem solvers. So maybe there's someone that's not totally a Python developer, is another language, but he enjoys to work in a nice environment, solving problems. So this is what we are looking at Scurry. In the last 2 years, we doubled the number of transactions. So this month we're expecting to process 3 more than 3.5 million transactions, and this goes through Scurry. So we have challenges on DevOps, Python, front end, security. So all of this type of developers are very welcome on Scurry. The next challenge for next year, as we're moving to this tracking functionality, there's a lot of artificial intelligence that we want to add, because processing this amount of transaction, we actually have loads of data from different carriers, from people sending products all over the world. So the next big challenge for Scurry is actually look to this data and trying to help our customers to tell, okay, if you're sending this product to this country, use this carrier because they're more reliable. But if you want a cheaper one, use this one. Or even at this time, your product is likely to have 1 day delay because there's a severe water condition in this place. So exactly what we're trying to do is to use this data that we have now and add some intelligence on that to provide a better product to our customers.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Cool. So who are we looking for? So in the bank, we have a lot of different types of products in the bank. We've got our real-time products. We've got kind of like sort of full stack to UI-based products. We've got big data sort of projects that we're running with. We use kind of like artificial intelligence. We've got areas in kind of like security as well that we do a lot of development in. As you can imagine, we are constantly suffering from the interests of other people that might be looking for what we know. And we're looking for Python developers. We're looking for not so much Python developers. We're looking for people with a good cultural fit that will work well within our team environments, that are enthusiastic and motivated to learn about kind of like the new projects and take on the new challenges that we face. At the moment, the current sort of next 2-3 years sort of major projects are kind of faced on kind of like Brexit. So we've got a lot of work going on around the Brexit environment within the bank as well, and just looking at any regulatory changes, so building products to adapt to that. And then, yeah, essentially like everybody. We're looking for a good cultural fit, people coming in, want to learn, want to work together and have a bit of crack while doing it. You may not think crack's associated with the bank, but it can be fun.
I'll give you the really, really short answer first. If you're the kind of person who comes to PyCon Ireland, we'd probably like to talk to you. The longer answer is we've just finished raising a large investment round. We're planning on growing our business across the board. So we're going to be working on several new products that we're hoping will greatly increase the business in the next year, which means we need operations staff. We're currently in the process of moving our entire stack over to Kubernetes. If that's the kind of thing that's interested to you, we definitely want to talk to you. We're building a lot of UIs, a lot of analytics tools. If you're a strong front-end developer, we're definitely very interested in talking to you. The short version is, if you've got strong Python skills, if you like web development, I mean the full stack from top to bottom, we want to talk to you. Please come up to me, come up to Dave down the back there who has his hand in the air. We'd love to have a chat. Thanks.
So we're looking for senior engineers who's got a solid computer science foundation and a bit of background in Python development, particularly the async IO framework or any of the asynchronous programming framework for our web services. Again, we're trying to grow our business here in Dublin, and then with the new office, there's going to be a lot of desks to fill, and that's what we're looking to fill about 65 desks in the new office. And we have a whole lot of perks in the office. We got 3 meals a day, full service kitchen, you name it, the whole nine. So we're looking for people who can join us and make a difference in our product and in our customer experience.
So, pardon me. What you tend to get at a smaller company is a little bit more of a direct answer. So our dev team at the moment is sort of heavy at both ends. We have some extremely experienced people, and then we are bringing on a bunch of interns in January as well, as we do every year. So the dev team is sort of U-shaped like that. We're looking for a developer to hopefully slot in there somewhere. We're not looking for a specific skill in a specific language. Strong Python is obviously good. But we tend to think that we can teach people the tech skill. So the first thing that we look for when we're hiring is we look for, is this person reasonably smart, and have they done some reasonable things before, and are they a nice person? Do we definitely all want to get on with this person? Because we've only got roughly 20 people in the office compared to the 60 or so seats that you have to fill. So we're definitely a different scale there. So we have to test for cultural fit almost first. And generally after that, we're happy to support people in growing into the role that wherever they tend to fit naturally. But generally in terms of Python skill, we're looking for something kind of mid-range.
Part of what we're like in the conference is there's a lot of career young people who are not as conscious of that. So it's sort of worth following up on, not just the technical skill set, this awareness of cultural fit. So do you mind actually just like doing a second pass that, if that's okay? Or you just, I'll tell you, we can go down to the end there actually again. Do you mind we start with Derek there? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we're a little bit different because we're a recruitment company and we're trying to match people culturally to the right client. I can tell you a little bit about Brightwater values. Our own values are pride, passion and integrity. And I always think, when you ask people, when people come in and they talk about things like this, nobody knows what their company values often are. They couldn't name them, and that means that they don't necessarily live them. But what I do think is that culture is so important to people. Finding the right fit is really, really key. When people come into us, they tend to concentrate on the things that they find easy to talk about, which is salary, benefits, location, home working, whatever the options are. When you get down to culture, sometimes people find it difficult to articulate what they necessarily want. And you really have to delve in and find what's important to people and what they value. I find, things like ethics really, really interesting and important to people. But you really have to draw it out of people. So I think what we try and do on a day-to-day basis when we talk to candidates is find out really what's important to them. Again, it can be difficult for candidates, I think, sometimes to talk about things like that because often they don't necessarily think about it. They might think, okay, well, I like a fun environment. That's one thing I like. But what else? Like, what are the things that drive you and what are the things that you value and what are the things that you think are important about working? I think it's really important for me and for the team that I work with to really delve into that. And equally, when we talk to clients, it's really important for us to understand really what the client, what they live and breathe on a day-to-day basis and what they really value. And then it becomes easier for us then to place people correctly.
So at Scurry, I think we're 12 developers now, and so culture is very important on the hiring process. There is a good few times that we found a good developer, and he was brilliant, but we decided to not hire him because he will not be a culture fit. And I think this is very important because it's not just the company looking for someone who's gonna be happy. If the company is gonna be happy with the person, but also look to the person and say, would this guy would like to talk to work with us? We are a multicultural company. We are 12 developers, but we have. I came from Brazil. I have developers working from Ukraine, Poland, Portugal, Hungary. So there's a certain fit for a company who has like this mixture, and also the fact that we are in Wexford. We are a little bit more, I would say, relaxed. We have family and fun are part of our values. So every time that someone needs to take a time off because of family, there's absolutely no question about that. Or every time someone needs to arrive a little bit late, leave early. I mean, the fact that we are a startup allow us to bend a little bit the rules to make, okay, this guy needs to be happy. We need to understand that he has an issue here. Let's help him to fix this issue. at Scurry, we're not looking for someone who decide to come 9 to 5, get a script, get it done, go away. No, we want people who are capable to wear different hats along the day, because we have different challenges coming all over the time. So all of these are very important to us, and that's why this cultural part, during the interview, the last part, it's an interview with the CEO, because even though the tech is approved, he still needs to talk to CEO and usually with some manager of the area to see, but actually this part is not Scurry evaluating the person. As I said, like, is the CEO caring to look at this person and say, would this guy will be happy working with us? And then based on that, we decide if we hire the person or not.
Culture-wise, we have a lot of different employee networks, and we always encourage our employees to get involved. You get a number of days per year that you can use purely for volunteering. So if you want to volunteer at your local animal rescue, you can do that on the bank's time. We love to see people getting involved in the networks. We have networks for we've our DAN, which is our Disability and Accessibility Network. We've got D&I networks. We've got Women in Tech networks. We have mountaineering clubs. We even have gaming clubs that you can join. So you can actually, we have a lot of distributed teams across like different geographical locations. And a lot of the time you spend your time, you're working on code together, you're working on projects, there can be a bit of pressure. So how do you kind of like decompress after all that? So there's gaming clubs. So you can join kind of a networking gaming club and all connect together and talk to each other in different situations and different scenarios and have a bit of crack. So really what Peter was saying is like, it's like going to college. You can go into college and get your degree, come out of college and never really have experienced college life. What I found in college is the best way to experience is to get involved in your committees and your clubs and really get a feel for how things work and meet all the people that are there. And it's the same in the bank. Go in and do your 9 to 5, you won't really see much. Go in and do your 9 to 5 and get involved in the networks and you'll open up a whole new life.
Thank you. I think most of us have probably had a job at some point in our lives where we had to sit through a presentation on what the company culture and the company values are and walked out thinking this isn't where I really work and rolled our eyes and got on with it. So whenever you talk about company culture, I like to look at what the company actually does because I always feel that the actions speak an awful lot louder than the words. So we're probably more like a mid-sized company. I think we're around 130 in headcount in total. The majority of that is in New York. The development operation in Dublin is around the 30 mark. So we have the benefit of being a mid-sized company. We're fairly established in our industry, but the Dublin office probably has a culture a little bit closest to a startup. And in that respect, we're quite flexible. We work with talented people we find to make sure that we've got working arrangements that suit them. We're small groups, but we're working with some of the largest companies in the world. So any one individual walking in the door can and regularly does have a huge rippling impact into the outside world. And I think if I have to zero in on the one part of our culture I really love, that's it. Small groups of people and individuals executing projects quickly and having a massive impact. That might sound on the surface like you're talking about a workaholic environment. Far from it. It's a very family-friendly environment. It's regular hours. It's well structured. We have no interest in burning people out. We have startlingly low turnover. I have been there over 4 years now, and I think I can count the number of people who've left on the fingers of one hand. And most of those have left for moving to a different country with their new partner, something like that, not necessarily for a new job. I think the fact that we have got that low a turnover in this industry and in a competitive hiring market like Dublin probably says more about what it's like to work there than anything else I possibly could. Thanks.
Thank you. In terms of culture fit, we're looking for a set of attributes, personal attributes from candidates and see and evaluate them and see if they're actually aligned with the company values, which, there are many. But, three comes to mind. Number one is, which is important to us, is we do a lot of things ourselves, which means we have to learn a lot of new things. So the number one thing we look in candidates is, are they averse to learning new stuff? Might be something completely different, not Python related, but are they averse to learning them? Number two is because we are a very flat structure, communication is very important. So we want to look in candidates their ability to communicate effectively and take feedbacks critically. Number three, we're looking for people who don't just treat this as a job that you know, it's a 9-to-5 job that you collect a paycheck every 2 weeks. We're looking for their commitment into pushing us to grow into a global company and if, you know, eventually become a public company. So we're looking for people who are driven and motivated to help us with our mission.
So at Hosted Graphite, we still think we're a little bit too small to have a set of codified values, you know, 3 buzzwords on posters. But one of the things that I think stands out is this concept of surviving at the deep end. So what we do with our developers on day one is that they're paired with a mentor, and by the end of their very first day, after they've set up their credentials and access to GitHub and all that other stuff, you deploy a change to production right away with someone sitting next to you. But that only accelerates from there. On your second day, you're working on a task mostly with a little bit less supervision, I guess. But when it comes time to deploying it, yeah, you'll get that supervision again, and you'll make sure that the thing that you're working on is going to have some impact right away, really quickly. But at the same time, it can feel a little bit overwhelming because you're being given real tasks. The thing you're fixing is going right in front of a customer on day one. To be fair, on day one, it's probably a typo, but it gets intense quickly from there. We've seen that works really well for the type of people that we hire over the last few years. We have all of these really, really good developers who can move really, really quickly now with the confidence and safety that this system gives them. Yeah.
Describe a situation where you're thinking where an interview, you're interviewing someone now, where just things went really, really wrong, that the interviewer created a very bad impression over something very innocuous. Just something, it should have gone well, but it just didn't. Can you just sort of, and you can sort of localize that to your own company, your own sector, okay? And also, if you want, you can flip it in reverse, where somebody unexpectedly blew you away. Wow, this guy's great, or this lady's perfect.
Yeah, we interview a lot of people in Brightwater, and I think what stands out to me really is a lot of some candidates come in well prepared. They've really thought about what they want. They can articulate, you know, what their skill set is and what they're looking for, and as a result, the interview will flow nicely. And then you'll have people who haven't really thought about what they want. They're ill prepared for interview, and they can't articulate, you know, what they've done and what skills they're going to bring, and you know, so this happens on a pretty much, you know, regular basis. You know, what I think about interviews is you have, you know, a half an hour to an hour with somebody, and you really need to, you know, put your best foot forward, and you do that through meticulous preparation. Really, you do your thinking in advance of an interview, so you really need to figure out what it is you want, and then you need to figure out exactly what you can bring from a hard skills point of view and a soft skills point of view. And you need to be able to articulate, and you do that through practice. You do that through, you know, preparation, and that is your road to success from an interview point of view. When it doesn't go well, you know, it can be a waste of time for me, which is fine. But for the person, it starts to eat into your confidence. So anyone who has done a really bad interview, it's hard to recover from it. You know, I find when people have had a really bad interview experience, their next interview is not necessarily much better because a lot of the confidence is gone, has to be built up again. So really, it's up to the person to really put the work in and spend a bit of time thinking about clearly what they want. You need to be able to articulate it, not just from the job point of view, but the company point of view. What are you looking for from your next company? And then who you are and what you can bring with you. And so often companies will, you know, they'll happily, you know, skip past a skill gap. Attitude is going to be key. So how are you going to get that across in your interview? When you sit in front of somebody, how are you going to get across, you know, your attitude? You know, where you want to be and how you're going to get there and what you can add to a company, what you can bring with you. So for me, it's really preparation is what's going to separate that.
There was one time we were interviewing one guy, and he said, "Well, before apply to be a developer, I used to be a pilot, and I left because I crashed the plane." So, so this is something that didn't go well. But usually during the interview, what goes wrong, especially when we are doing at Scurry, we focus a lot on the part of the code review, because sometimes the best solution for the developer who built it is not the fit for the system as a whole. So, and we have a very strict process to code review. So we make sure that if we ship a code to production, that code is not going to break. So sometimes developers need to step back and say, okay, I put my effort on that, but maybe it's not the best solution. So what this other developer is suggesting makes sense. So let's talk and let's refactor this code to make sure that if we are putting in production, is the best code that we have. And sometimes during the interview, what we get sometimes is developer that is very attached to his code. And this for Scurry would not be a cultural fit because we have a lot of team decision over code. Yeah, I think that's the main reason.
I think I can't think in recent years of an interview that has really gone very badly south. But I can tell you of one thing that I've seen happen again and again and again, which will sink almost any interview, and that's anyone who attempts to sort of roadblock any particular part of the questioning process. I'm not a big fan of gotcha questions or puzzlers. I like open-ended interview questions and use them to drive around someone's experience and skill set. If you're asking somebody, how would you imagine you would approach this problem? Or this problem you've told me about you solved in the past, how would you do it? It's okay to stumble, it's okay to kind of take a moment and gather your thoughts, but if you keep essentially repeating the same answer without digging deeper when the interviewer is clearly trying to get you to dig deeper, that sets off a huge red flag, because that is saying to the interviewer, either you can't think critically and you can't do the analysis right now. A really terrible suggestion of a solution as a starting point is often better than no answer at all. If I've asked you about a project that you've done in the past and you don't seem unwilling to dig into the details, either you need to tell me because it's confidential, or you need to start to dig in. If you keep staying at the same layer when I'm trying to dig deeper and you won't go with it, that to me says maybe you're misrepresenting your experience. Maybe you had a far smaller part in that project than you're letting me on. So sometimes I think that can be miscommunication, and interviews are difficult for both sides of the table. It's a high stakes conversation. Both people on either side of the table are trying to decide, am I going to spend a significant chunk of the rest of my life interacting with you? But really pay attention to the questions you're being asked. If you sense an interviewer is getting frustrated, pause for a moment and see, am I really answering the question he's trying to get out of me? It's hard to describe without giving you specifics, which I'm obviously not going to do. But if you're being asked essentially the same question in several different forms, that's probably a sign that the interviewer is trying to dig in and he's not getting what he wants. So try and pick up on that and try and work with it. I hope that's helpful.
I'll say probably three things that there are kind of my pet peeves when it comes to interviews, particularly for junior level developers who come into the company. Number one is they don't know what the company does, even though they're given plenty of opportunity to research on the company. They don't know what the company sells. They don't know. They haven't used the product, so that's the number one pet peeve for me. Number two is if you list something on your resume, better make sure that you can talk knowledgeably about it, right? So, or qualify it. So if you put C on your resume, then I'm going to ask you about memory management. I'm going to ask you about stacks. I'm going to ask you about pointers, and you better be able to answer them. Otherwise, that's a big red flag for me. Number 3 is sometimes the simplest answer is the right answer. People think that interview questions are trick questions. A lot of them are not. We're looking for common sense answers. Because a lot of the real life questions don't really have complex solutions.
So, as others have alluded to, bluffing is probably the biggest problem in interviews. What I'm always trying to do in a technical interview is map out a person's knowledge and see they're really strong over there and this one ends here. But if someone is always sort of stonewalling that, as Sean mentioned, you can never really find out what do they actually know in there. And that's always really frustrating. So I'll always try asking that a couple of different ways to make sure, is it just nerves, or do you really not know about that, and come at that from a different angle. And if it's the same everywhere, it leads to a great big story, you're talking a good talk, then that's one of the biggest ways you can sort of blow an interview with us, I guess. There's one of the other ways you can succeed at this is by writing a really, really good cover letter that describes why you think you're a good fit here and what it is in the job ad, what thing spoke to you and why. And one of the ways that people never do this there's a situation in which you never do this, and one of those is, sorry folks, is applying through a recruiting company, because that always feels to me like someone is outsourcing their career development. It's the most important thing in your life, probably, and you're not getting a chance to actually talk to that company right up front and say, that thing appeals to me, this is why. You guys stood out because of this, that, or the other. And that matches up with me for these reasons. But instead, there's coaching instead, and there's sort of keyword filtering. And so recruitment companies, and you've hit one of my little pet peeves. I'm not going to pick on you guys too much. But that's one of the other reasons. If a recruiter ever comes to us and says, hey, I've got a great candidate for you guys, it's always, yeah, if they're so great, they would have picked us out themselves. They would have written a heartfelt cover letter. And we'd see the person behind it. And we're never going to see that with any kind of interface.
I think I better allow Derek a right to reply here. Probably, yeah. No, just actually, first off, actually, this is not, I've never had dealings with hosted graphite, but I have had dealings with a lot of very badly written job specs. So, apropos of that, I'll give that over to Derek there.
Yeah, look, I take the point because, you obviously you'd like somebody to come to you for the right reasons. The difficulty, I think, for candidates are they don't know every company in the market, and most people who come here, people are coming from other countries, people who are kind of dipping their toe in the Irish market and asking the question, who's here, what can I do here? They don't know every company, and they need where we kind of fit into the market is, it's to try to solve the problem of. We can educate people broadly to the type of companies that exist here, and equally to companies we can educate broadly to the type of candidates that are in the market, and we try and find a happy medium where we're a service. We're obviously in the service industry where we help both sides to come together properly. What we tend to do is if we can understand companies and understand what they do, understand their culture and values, understand where they're going. And then equally, if we understand from the candidate point of view, our role then just becomes very simple matchmaking. It's very simply an introduction. And we try and get it right as much as we can. I do know that sometimes it can be much more of a transactional thing where recruiters meet candidates and then they'll send the CV out to multiple companies. And I presume that's really where you're getting to, where candidates are not necessarily, they don't know fully, the in-depth where their CVs are going and what companies they're being represented to. I can only really speak to Brightwater and what we do. I feel it's a much more personalised service, and it's a much more direct professional service where we really try and understand our candidates, and equally we really try and understand our companies and make the appropriate match and the appropriate representation. Just another point on that is a lot of candidates they don't necessarily have the confidence to apply directly to multiple companies. They need a little bit of advice, they need a little bit of help and support, so they use a service like ours just to help them through that process. So it's not necessarily that they feel any less passionate about each individual company, or that they, whether or not they'd like to work there is diminished, but it's more they just need a helping hand, and I think that's where we fit in.
Okay, no, it's a very interesting topic actually, but I don't think we'll have much time to deal with it more unless anybody wants to add anything. I just noticed that we became a panel there a short while ago, so actually just an all-male panel, it wasn't intentional. But essentially, just apropos of that, let's just actually finish about with a question. This is also sort of apropos of the walkout at Google, and I don't that thing. So it's just sort of like we'll sort of broadly agree that the tech corporate culture needs to change, and not just with regard to that, but let's say for other things as well, like remote working. So we can talk in broad strokes here. How does your company need to evolve, and in what way is it evolving? Very, very broad question. You can go anywhere you want with that, if that's all right.
Again, because we deal with multiple clients. I mean, I had a number of conversations today around kind of female participation in the workplace, things like that, and all of the work that's gone on to try, and particularly in software development and areas like that, to try and even it out. I mentioned today, that we had in Brightwater, we did a breakfast briefing not too long ago. We had a retired professor from DCU who spoke about, when he started lecturing in the 80s, in computer science, it was always 50-50. And gradually it started to change. And then you had this, it became much more male dominated. And, what can be done to redress it? I really feel, it's going to take a bit of time. There's a lot of work going on in the background. But from our point of view, the female participation in IT to me is a huge untapped market. 50% of the people that we place in Brightwater are foreign nationals, the people who come here, and we have this, already here in Ireland we have a huge amount of people who could participate in the IT market and not necessarily do, or could participate within software development and not necessarily do, and there's a lot of question marks around that and how we're going to fix it. I think broadly, the walkout in Google is interesting. I can't really speak to that, but what I can say is that within Brightwater and what we do, again, culture is so important. The culture of the companies that we work with and we place people in is really key. I feel that we do what we can on our side to educate people, to share information, at events, to share information when we meet clients and share information when we meet candidates. And again, it's all about just trying to match the right person with the right job.
So at Scurry, again, two of the values of the company's code is fun and family. And it's very difficult to balance fun and family without, go over the line. But what we have in Scurry is like, you make your fun and you tell a joke, but behave as you would behave on your Sunday dinner at the table, because we are all family. So it's okay to make a joke that is a little bit bold, is a little bit inappropriate, but behave as you would behave in front of your granny. So you can be bold, you can make a joke, but there are some boundaries that we should not go. In regards to hiring in Scurry, we hire good developers. So we don't care the nationality, the orientation, the gender. We are always looking for good developers. And as we are a startup, that's very important that we have the right fit. If the fit is a woman or with a different orientation, we actually don't care about that.
I think this is a tough problem, and I wish I was smart enough that I could claim I had a definitive solution. As has been stated, it's no longer 50-50 in the universities, and that's a big problem. And I think the most interesting talk of the day for me today so far has been directly preceding this in track one, an overview of the new computer science curriculum for the Leaving Cert in Ireland. And that's something that I think has a huge opportunity to introduce kids from all kinds of backgrounds to our line of work much earlier. I think there are a lot of people who, would never consider a career in our field if they're not exposed young. I think by the time they're hitting their late teens, early 20s, if they haven't independently gotten some interest into our field, they're not going to get it. I'm probably a little unusual in that I'd never touched a PC before I went to college. I was a little mercenary and I heard there was money in it. And that's what drove me there. As it happened, I enjoy it and I love it, and it's worked out very well for me. But my general experience of my peers when I went to college is these people had been working with computers in their own time since they were small children. This wasn't just a means to a job for them. This was a passion and a vocation. What I think would make a really big difference in this country specifically would be to have it be a core subject in far more schools. Particularly historically, there's been a poor trend of technical subjects being offered in all girls schools, and I think pushing hard for that to be adopted across the board and taught widely would make a huge long-term impact. I'm hoping to catch up with the presenter later on in the bar, and we have a volunteering program at Rapid Ratings, and I'm wondering if there's some way we can cross the two over. Thanks.
So the question was about diversity and...
Well, like how the workplace is evolving apropos of diversity and, making it be a more responsible workplace.
Right.
Where things like the walkout doesn't happen.
Right. To be honest, it's too big a topic for me to answer. So I'll just say this. When we hire, doesn't really matter who you are. As long as you're a good fit for the company and you actually have the qualifications and the ability to do the work, and that's all we need. And you also asked about remote working. So,
yeah, as well, yeah.
Right, so we actually have, for a company our size, about, I would say 30 people actually, about 20 to 30 people actually work for us remotely. Some of them are in Argentina, some of them are in Brazil, and then 20 of us is here in Ireland. So we love remote working, and as long as you are an effective engineer and you're always present and you do good work, and that's all we care about.
That's great. Sorry, just to clarify a point. I do know some parents basically, and remote working sort of helps them come back into the workplace. That's just where I was matching that up. Okay. Sorry about that. Go on. Sorry.
Managed to clear the context in my head with that one, thank you.
All right, never mind. Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, we're good. So yeah, it's a much bigger problem. This, so let's focus on the diversity thing to begin with. It's a problem that I think you're probably only going to fix with the Leaving Cert curriculum and more things like that. You've got to work on the funnel, but we're doing what we can in the meantime, which is we are hosting PyLadies from time to time. We are funding good events like PyCon, and we are blogging about this issue, this tech diversity issue. We're mentioning it in our job ads. I am personally mentioning it at any kind of hiring event. This is a great example of that, but every chance I get, I will mention it. We're trying to increase the gender balance in our applicant pool up to roughly 50-50, where it ought to be, judging by general population. But yeah, it's really tricky. Doing what we can, but we sort of have to wait for things to change around us.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap it up there because there was quite a lot of interesting topics that we followed on, particularly where we just left off there. But unfortunately, we ran out of time. But we'd like to thank our speakers. Give them a round of applause if you want.